Hi everybody, I'm George Ryals from Archery Learning Center, and I'm here to show you how to make sure that your ULTRAVIEW button and your ULTRAVIEW hinge hit in the same hole. So that way you can practice with your hinge and then your button. You can use both of these together to kind of work through your shot execution issues or whatever. And one thing that you've got going for you with these releases is they are the exact same shape. So when I overlay them on top of each other, you see that they're absolutely identical in shape. But that's not really enough. How you manage your hand position with your hinge versus your hand position with your button is really what makes the difference, whether if they hit in the same spot or not. And usually here's where the problem comes up. I've got a little fake bow here that I can show you with. Most of the time when somebody uses a hinge, they're very hard-handed, they're overprotective with the hinge to make sure that it doesn't accidentally go off when they pull back. So if you have this release pulled all the way forward like this with, your fingers hardly even in it, or you grab that thumb barrel and you're drawing it back with 75% thumb barrel, and then putting your fingers in the release, you see what kind of shape that my hand is in here. So once I put the pin on the target and then look through the peep, my hand shape is completely different on my face than it would be my button. So let me show you what it looks like on the button. I'll set my fingers in the release. I got a good balance on all fingers here. You can see right there, good balance on all fingers. And then when I draw that back and put the pin on the target and then look through the peep, you see my hand is in a totally different location and shape. So you can work with your hinge. You can use a piece of string, or you can use a light bow like this one here, or you can use your bow. But it's easier to do it with a piece of string so you can actually feel what you're doing. Pull the target up close so that you're not worried shooting an arrow through the range or something. And set your hinge up so that you have a nice even balance like this on all three fingers. So it's best when you're learning how to shoot your hinge and setting your hinge up, don't use the thumb pad or the thumb barrel to draw it back. So that way you can actually learn how to use your hand to hold the release, and you're not overutilizing that and changing where the release hits related to the button. So I get set up. First thing I do is set my fingers and make sure it's right. I'm actually looking at it and making sure it's right where I want it to be. Then I'll set my hand, pull the release back, put the pin on the target, anchor, and then I'm ready, right? So the click happens as I anchor the release. So when I pull back, put the pin on the target, and as I'm looking through the peep, the click happens just as I reach my anchor. And if you just look at my release aid hand here, it looks very similar to what it looks like with my button. So just a little bit more pulling. I'm holding this away from my face so you can see what I'm doing, but just a little bit more pulling makes it fire. Same with my button. I'll set that up, engage the release, hook it on the D-loop, look at the release, set my fingers in the release, draw it back, pin on, peep, and then wrap my thumb around the button. Then with just a little bit more pulling, the button goes. It's really interesting that the button will fire just like the hinge. Let me see if I can do it with my sling. That all I really need to do is just pull against it and it fires. So to figure out how to make that action work with the button or the hinge, just use a piece of string about this long so you can hold it in front of your face and watch what you're doing and then pull against it with very light pressure, not heavy pressure. You need to be able to feel what your hands are doing. Hook my thumb and pull, and you see how that makes that work. Let me do the same thing with my hinge so you can see how the hinge works. Set my hinge up, get my fingers in the right position. I pull a little until I get my click, and then go a little farther and then it breaks. And if you look at both of these, I'll show you the hinge one more time. See, it's a click and then a fire. Note my hand shape. Click and fire, and then I'll get the button. Note my hand shape. Put my thumb on the button and pull a little bit. Hand shape is the same. So when I bring this up to my face, having the hand shape consistent is what makes a difference on whether if the release, the hinge, or the button hit in the same hole. With proper technique, any release will hit in the same hole. But because the hinge and the button are identically shaped, it makes it much easier for you to get your hand position correct, make sure that your manipulation of the release is similar, and you're able to shoot both and them hit in the same exact hole.